Sports aren't just about talent. They're about resilience, strength, and breaking barriers. But for LGBTQ+ athletes, the toughest battles aren't always on the field. They're against discrimination, homophobia, and a system that wasn't built for them. For decades, queer athletes have been forced to hide who they are, fearing backlash from fans, teammates, and even the industry itself. But these 10 men refused to be erased. They defied the odds, faced hate head-on, and proved that being true to yourself isn't a weakness. It's the ultimate victory. Today, Rainbow Spotlight dives into the stories of LGBTQ+ athletes who didn't just win medals, they changed the game forever. Get ready to meet the trailblazers. Number 1. Brian Vahali, the tennis star who hid his truth to stay in the game. Tennis is a sport of precision, power, and mental toughness. But for Brian Vahali, the biggest challenge wasn't his opponent across the net. It was hiding who he really was. In the early 2000s, Vahali was one of America's rising tennis stars. He climbed to world number 1, 64 in the ATP rankings, defeated legends like Rafael Nadal, and earned over $1 million in prize money. But while he dominated on the court, he was battling an invisible opponent: fear. At the time, no active ATP player had ever come out. The pressure to conform was suffocating, and Vahali kept his sexuality a secret, terrified of what it would do to his career. It wasn't until nearly a decade after retiring that he finally came out, revealing he was married to a man and had twin sons. Now, Vahali is using his voice to change the sport. He's an advocate for LGBTQ+ representation in tennis, proving that the next generation of queer athletes shouldn't have to hide. Because true champions aren't just measured by trophies, they're measured by courage. Drop a 1 if Brian Vahali's journey inspires you. Number 2. Colin Martin, the soccer player who refused to stay silent. In professional soccer, being openly gay is still rare. Colin Martin decided to change that. For years, Martin played in silence, afraid of how the world would react if they knew the truth. As a midfielder in Major League Soccer, MLS, he shared the field with some of the best, but behind the scenes, he was hiding a part of himself. Then, in 2018, everything changed. At just 23 years old, Martin became the only openly gay active professional soccer player in the world. His coming out announcement wasn't just personal, it was a statement, a challenge to the idea that LGBTQ+ athletes don't belong in sports. But the road wasn't easy. In 2020, Martin faced homophobic slurs during a match, proving that discrimination in soccer wasn't just a thing of the past. Instead of backing down, he spoke up, forcing the league to address the issue head-on. Now, Martin isn't just playing the game, he's changing it. He's proof that soccer, like every sport, belongs to everyone. And the next generation of queer players won't have to play in fear. Drop a 2 if Colin Martin's bravery inspires you. Number 3. Jack Daniels, the weightlifter who proved strength has no limits. In the world of weightlifting, masculinity is often measured in pounds lifted and muscles built. Jack Daniels shattered that perception. As a competitive weightlifter, Daniels spent years proving his strength on the platform. But behind the scenes, he was battling a different kind of weight, the fear of coming out in a hyper-masculine sport. He knew the culture of strength sports wasn't always welcoming to LGBTQ+ athletes. The locker room talk, the stigma, the risk of losing sponsorships, it was enough to keep most people silent. But Daniels refused to hide. He came out publicly and became one of the first openly gay elite weightlifters. The response? Overwhelming support from some and harsh backlash from others. But instead of backing down, he used his platform to fight for inclusion in strength sports, proving that true power isn't just physical, it's the courage to be yourself. Today, Daniels is more than a weightlifter. He's a role model, an activist, and living proof that LGBTQ+ athletes can succeed in any sport, no matter how macho the world thinks it is. Drop a 3 if Jack Daniels' strength inspires you. Number 4. John Amaechi, the NBA star who redefined toughness basketball as a game of speed, skill, and toughness. John Amaechi embodied all three, but his toughest battle wasn't on the court. As a 6'10 powerhouse, Amaechi made history as the first British player to sign with an NBA team. He played for the Cleveland Cavaliers, Orlando Magic, and Utah Jazz, becoming a respected player in the league. But the whole time he was hiding a secret. Amaechi was gay, but he knew that coming out while playing could cost him everything: his contracts, his career, and the respect of his teammates. So he waited. In 2007, after retiring, he became the first former NBA player to publicly come out. His announcement shook the sports world. Some players supported him, others dismissed him. One former teammate infamously said, "I wouldn't want him in my locker room." But Amaechi didn't let the hate define him. He used his story to break barriers, becoming a psychologist, author, and advocate for LGBTQ+ athletes. Amaechi's legacy isn't just about basketball. It's about proving that true toughness isn't about how hard you play, but how boldly you live. Drop a 4 if John Amaechi's courage inspires you. Number 5. Josh Cavalo, the soccer player. Who made history in real time for decades, professional soccer felt like a sport where LGBTQ+ athletes had to stay silent. Josh Cavalo changed that. In 2021, at just 21 years old, Cavalo became the first openly gay active player in top-flight men's soccer. His announcement sent shockwaves through the sport. Until that moment, no male professional footballer had ever dared to come out while still playing at the highest level. His decision wasn't easy. The soccer world has a long history of homophobia. Jeers from the crowd, discriminatory language in locker rooms, and an unspoken rule that being out could cost you your career. Cavalo knew the risks, but he also knew the power of visibility. The response? An outpouring of support from fans, players, and even global soccer icons like Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Gerard Piqué. But the hate came too. In 2022, he was targeted with homophobic abuse during a match. Instead of staying silent, he called it out, demanding change in the sport he loved. Cavalo didn't just make history. He made it safer for the next LGBTQ+ players to follow. Drop a 5 if Josh Cavalo's courage inspires you. Number 6. Colin Martin, the football player who came out before he even started. Most LGBTQ+ athletes wait until retirement to come out. Colin Martin did the opposite. He came out before his career even began. In 2014, Mertens was a freshman kicker for Willamette University's football team when he made history as the first active college football player to come out as bisexual. His announcement was groundbreaking, not just because of his bravery, but because he wasn't a star player yet. He risked his entire future before it had even started. Mertens knew the dangers. American football, like many sports, has a deep-rooted culture of homophobia. He feared being benched, losing his teammates' trust, or even being cut from the team. But when he told his coach, the response was simple: "We love you. Now go kick some ass." His coming out paved the way for more LGBTQ+ athletes in football to follow. He proved that queer players don't have to wait until the end of their careers to live openly. They can do it from day one. Drop a 6 if Colin Martin's story inspires you. Number 7. David Testo, the soccer star who spoke up too late. David Testo had everything: a professional soccer career, talent, and the respect of his teammates. But he also had a secret. For years, Testo played in the USL, a league just below Major League Soccer. He won championships, earned MVP honors, and was a fan favorite. But all that time, he was hiding who he was. He feared that if people knew the truth, that he was gay, his career would be over. It wasn't until 2011, a year after he left professional soccer, that he finally came out. The weight of secrecy had become unbearable, but his timing was bittersweet. He wished he had done it sooner. He admitted that hiding his identity affected his mental health, his confidence, and ultimately, his career. Testo's story became a cautionary tale. He showed the cost of living in fear, but also the power of finally speaking up. Since coming out, he has dedicated himself to LGBTQ+ advocacy in sports, pushing for a future where no athlete has to hide. His lesson? Don't wait to be yourself. Drop a 7 if David Testo's journey inspires you. Number 8. Charlie Martin. The racer who refused to stay in the slow-lane motorsports have always been seen as a world of hyper-masculinity. Charlie Martin is proving that speed has no gender. Born in the UK, Martin had one goal: to be a professional race car driver. But as a transgender woman in one of the most conservative sports, she knew the road wouldn't be easy. The racing industry was filled with barriers, from sponsorship struggles to outright discrimination. Yet, she never backed down. In 2018, Martin made history by becoming the first openly transgender driver to compete in the Le Mans Cup. Her participation wasn't just about racing, it was about breaking boundaries, pushing for inclusion, and showing that LGBTQ+ athletes belong everywhere. Since then, she has continued to climb the ranks in endurance racing, all while being a vocal advocate for diversity in motorsports. Her presence is changing the industry, proving that performance matters more than gender identity. Charlie Martin isn't just racing for trophies, she's racing for change. Drop an 8 if Charlie Martin's determination inspires you. Number 9. Orlando Cruz, the boxer who fought in and out of the ring. In boxing, toughness is everything. Fighters are expected to be ruthless, fearless, and unshakable. Orlando Cruz had all of that, but he also had a secret. For years, Cruz built a successful boxing career, representing Puerto Rico in the Olympics and earning championship titles. But inside, he was struggling. In a sport filled with machismo, where being gay was seen as weakness, he feared that coming out would end his career. Then, in 2012, he made history. Cruz became the first openly gay professional boxer, defying a culture that told him he couldn't exist. He wasn't just fighting opponents in the ring, he was fighting for acceptance. The backlash was brutal. Some fans turned on him, some promoters hesitated. But Cruz kept swinging, proving that sexual orientation had nothing to do with strength. He went on to fight for world titles, showing that being yourself is the ultimate victory. Cruz's courage changed the sport, paving the way for future LGBTQ+ fighters to step into the ring with their heads high and their truth intact. Drop a 9 if Orlando Cruz's fighting spirit inspires you. Number 10. Guillaume Cizeron, the ice dancer who broke more than records. Figure skating is about grace, precision, and perfection. But for Guillaume Cizeron, it was also about breaking barriers. A 4-time world champion and Olympic medalist, Cizeron dazzled audiences with his seamless performances. But while he mesmerized on the ice, off the ice, he kept his personal life private. As one of the biggest names in figure skating, he worried that coming out could shift focus from his talent to his identity. That changed in 2020 when Cizeron posted a photo with his boyfriend on social media, officially coming out. It was a quiet statement, but a powerful one. For years, LGBTQ+ athletes in figure skating had to live under unspoken rules of discretion. Cizeron shattered that. His announcement was met with love and support, proving that sports were evolving. But more importantly, it sent a message to young skaters everywhere. You don't have to choose between your career and your truth. Cizeron didn't just redefine ice dancing, he redefined what it meant to be fearless. Drop A if Guillaume Cizeron's journey inspires you. These 10 men didn't just compete in sports, they transformed them. They faced hate, defied expectations, and proved that being LGBTQ+ isn't a weakness, it's a strength. For too long, queer athletes were forced to stay silent, fearing they'd lose their careers, their fans, or their dignity. But not anymore. Every time an athlete comes out, they make sports a little more inclusive, a little more accepting, and a lot more inspiring. Which of these athletes inspired you the most? Drop their number in the comments below. And if you believe in celebrating LGBTQ+ athletes, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more, only on Rainbow Spotlight.